Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is your boy, CIZZY, live action from Kansas City, Missouri. But to be more specific, we are in Overland Park today at Leo Moreno Jr. Boxing Club. Listen, if y'all need your kid to get his hands up, he over here in 4th grade, he getting bullied. I'm not saying that they gym is looking to promote this, but I'm just saying if your kid getting bullied, he getting slapped up and shit, or your shorty, like your little shorty, like y'all need her to get her hands up, I'm just saying this might be the place to come. I mean, I don't know. I just seen somebody who got hands in the city, his name up on the board. So that means that if you want to have some hands in this city, you should probably get your hands. Anyways, that's enough promotion. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we're here live, Voices of Value, another episode 172 to be exact. And you know how we normally do like local business news and national business news. Today, we're simply going to touch on one pop culture topic. But in order for me to talk about that, you need to press the subscription button. Share this with a friend because that is the only way we can grow. Yesterday, Cassie, artist, pop star, reveals that, well, she didn't reveal this, but they reveal that Cassie is suing Diddy on allegations of rape, abuse, coercion, all types of different things. People have been talking about Diddy for like 25 years doing some crazy shit. He's been involved or talked about to be involved in the Tupac and Biggie murders. He's been talked about, for physical abuse of women he's been with for over 20 years. He's been known as somebody who makes his interns do some wild shit. He's been known to try to finesse young artists into situations they shouldn't be in. So finally somebody's standing up. I'm not saying I hate Diddy or anything. I'm just saying this has been conversations that have been happening for over 20 years. So shout out to a strong young lady, Cassie, to stand up, speak about her experience, come out here and put them on the stand. Sometimes things like this are necessary, and that's just my humble opinion. Ain't hating on no man, just saying sometimes things like this are necessary, and that will be the only topic outside of this conversation that I wanted to talk about today. So let's transition into who our guest is today. I'm going to go ahead and let you introduce. I've been, introducing people in the past. I want you to go ahead and give me your what do they call it? Elevator pitch. Who are you? Where are you from? What do you do?
My name's Easton Koch. I design clothes for my denim brand, Bonicel. I've been cutting, sewing, and designing my own clothes for about 5 years now. Growing here in Kansas City, doing my thing, pushing as much as I can. Yeah.
I love it. I love how you just said your last name because I'm not going to lie, for about like 10 weeks I've been Coach. I was thinking about, I started Googling the NBA player. He used to play for the Chicago Bulls when what's his name was there, when Michael Jordan was there. And I was Coach or something. I'm going to start looking it up. I was like, yo, how do you say this man's name? But ladies and gentlemen, all I did was type in Bonicel. How do you say it? Bonicel. I typed that in on the internet, and generative AI, on the topic of a topic we talk about a lot on this podcast, which is artificial intelligence. Some of our past few episodes have been about different ways we can integrate AI into business. And a generative AI bot from Google, as soon as I typed in Bonicel, said, Bonicel is a clothing brand that specializes in premium workwear. The brand is also known as Easton. Bonicel clothing can be found at Gavel and online. Bonicel's clothing includes Mildred shirt, available in black hemp and laundered denim. Don't worry, you're going to wonder, I'm going to tell you why I'm reading this all off. Mechanic shirt, available in black brush denim. Bonicel is also a sewing company based in the Midwest. They have a TikTok account with the hashtag Bonicel. How much of this is true, Easton?
That is about 100% accurate. That's fucking cool.
How does that make you feel?
I like it, actually. Yeah, I kind of like that.
You were like, I like that AI knows.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. But I feel like, yeah, if you can just Google what is Bonicel and it can give you a pretty exact description, that benefits me to some degree.
And what's even better is I didn't even say what is. I literally just typed in Bonicel. I didn't put Kansas City in there.
Well, that's crazy.
I didn't put your first name. I didn't put clothing. All I put in was Bonicel, and then just based off its iterations of understanding where I'm at.
It is a very like particular word. So
And where does it come from?
it was my great grandma Mildred Bonicel's maiden name.
Interesting.
Yep. So it is a name. It's
Okay.
a name. Yeah.
Okay. And hence where the Mildred shirt comes from.
Correct.
Okay. I like that. So when we think about the last name Bonicel, I cannot imagine where that comes from in the world. So can you tell me, is it an Italian, Irish, is it American standard? Like what is the background of your grandmother, your great grandparents? Like, do you know the bloodline?
It's difficult to like date it to a specific area. My great grandma had a couple different names growing up throughout throughout her younger age.
Mm-hmm.
I think Bonicel was an English name. If my memory serves me correctly. But when I was growing up, I knew her as Grandma Bonicel.
Okay.
And that was kind of the name that stuck. The name, pretty early on when I started making clothes, I knew that this was a potential brand name. One, because it's different, kind of sticks out a little bit. I feel like it sounds elevated to some degree.
Mm-hmm.
But more so than just that, she was definitely an inspiration for me. After she had she passed when I was pretty young. But once I got a little bit older and started getting into sewing, and my grandma would show me like, hey, this was one of my mom's quilts that she made, Grandma Bonicel. Do you remember her? And I was like, yes, I do. And I also just remembered how much my mom loved her. So that kind of like love that my mom had for her always stuck around. And then whenever I actually realized that she was kind of like the first lineage of sewing in my family, I was like, okay, there's some connection here. Fast forward a little bit, and I saw my mom has a couple of her quilts that she made, and she used to brand them, which was like
Intriguing.
To me so fucking cool, because that's what that's kind of like what sets you off as a brand, is like, what does your tag look like? What is the name? What are the small little nuances about the piece? And so she would actually have these tags on her quilts that said specially fashioned by Mildred Bonicel.
That's fire.
And the fact that someone was doing that back in like, the 30s and 40s really inspired me.
Hell yeah.
And I was like, that's so fucking cool. She also had this logo that she would put on She would have this star that she would put on them, which is now my brand logo. And I felt this like real connection to her, even though, again, like I didn't know her super well because she passed when I was younger. But like I've always struggled with brand names to some degree. Like I'm not someone that just is like, it's not like I just like spit out a perfect name.
You're like, that's fire.
Yeah, I have to like sit on it for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And this was kind of the one that like, you have to feel some connection to it. It can't just be like, anything.
Water.
Yeah, it can't just be like, a random thing. And it can't just be something that you think other people will gravitate to. It has to be something that you do.
You can kind of tell when people have done that as well. Like, especially, personally, in my opinion, especially in the fashion or clothing space, like you can tell somebody just came up with this in their bedroom. Like, all right, I'm just going to call it a pull star. Or like, I'm just going to call it.
Or when it's a derivative of something else, Like,
yeah.
So yeah, this was the one thing that like, I thought about it for a long time. And that was kind of the one thing that stuck and that felt special to me. And I knew it would take a little bit of time to like get people to even be able to pronounce it correctly. Like I get bionicle all the time,
So they dyslexic.
Yeah, dead ass. Yeah. But so I knew it would take a little bit, but it's like, it's a special connection to me for sure. Yeah.
I love that. And I kind of want to, you mentioned being younger a few times there. So I kind of want to just dial it back really quick to get a little bit of your origin. So whereabouts did you grow up? Whereabouts are you born? And what were some of your early interests, between 0 and 10 from what you can remember? Because I can't remember shit from when I was under 10.
I was born in Oklahoma City. I grew up in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Okay, makes so much sense because when you called me 5 minutes ago and I said Tulsa, Oklahoma, I said, I'm going to pick it up because I know I just sent this text, but I almost didn't pick up. I was like, I ain't picking up from Tulsa. But sorry.
I grew up in Tulsa. My entire friend group growing up in Tulsa and I were just like super into sports. Like that was everything. When I think about my childhood growing up, we would just create games, capture the flag, football, ripstick, like whatever random games we could come up with. I played basketball, football, and baseball growing up. And like my tight circle, we were just super into sports. And that was kind of like the first thing I remember kind of like really falling in love with was really all three of them at different times. But like basketball was my thing. And basketball was kind of like my introduction into style to some degree.
I love that though. Yeah.
And it wasn't really until I wasn't super into clothing until I moved to Olathe, Kansas, which was like my 8th grade year of school.
About 13?
Yeah, around that age. Before then, when I was growing up in Tulsa, you know, I liked like Under Armour and I liked nicer things, but there was never like a fashionable sensibility to it. Not until I moved to Olathe. But yeah, sports and basketball in particular were kind of like my entire childhood. I played college basketball at William Jewell up north in Liberty, Missouri.
Interesting.
Played basketball, football, baseball all throughout high school.
Already a part 2 got to happen because my research did not lead me there. My research did not lead me there. I did not know that.
It's
That's
like it's actually pretty funny how that's like the thing that led to all of this somehow in some way. And yeah, I'm still like obsessed with sports.
I love that. I love that. What led to from Tulsa to Olathe? What caused that to happen?
It was my dad's job. He worked for Nabisco Craft Foods. And yeah, I just remember like, you know, 6 months before we moved, my parents being like, hey, just so you know, we might be moving. And like my whole world was crushed because like I never really been outside of Tulsa. You know, I was at a good school, like I had good friends and didn't really want to leave. But, you know, looking back on it now, that was like the best thing that could happen was getting out of there and getting into a little bit bigger city and meeting new friends. The new friends that I met in Olathe were fashion people, you know? So that was kind of like
that. Dive straight into that. So when you come to, let's just call it Kansas City, but Olathe. For those who don't know what Olathe is, we just keep it simple and say Kansas City Metro, but not far from here. So when you move there, when you're, you know, you say the people you met and became your friend group were fashionable. Is that like once you get into high school, or are we talking as soon as you land, like the first land? Anyways, as soon as you drive into town, as soon as you touch down, are you running into like, oh shit, this is a whole new fashionable culture here in Olathe, and like start asking questions around? I guess dive into what you mean by that.
The answer to that question is no, but like the culture, definitely not.
Yeah.
But I met a couple people, and again, like these kids played sports too, so that was kind of how I initially met them.
Yes.
But like one of my best friends, Dom, for example, was just like super in touch with what was going on from a fashionable standpoint. And this was probably like my freshman or sophomore year of high school when he really started putting me on to like, hey, you need to be looking at this kind of stuff. Because around that time, I was like starting to care, you know? I was like, I can't even totally remember what I was rocking at the time, but I was definitely like starting to care a lot. And we kind of formed a bond off of that. And he was the first person to be like, yo, you need to get on Tumblr, like follow these people, like, have you ever heard of Supreme? Check this out. And that was kind of like the genesis, I would say, of me just stumbling down the rabbit hole of like everything I could ever like want to know about clothes, trying as hard as I could to figure it out.
Was there like a number one resource in that like time period, like a YouTube channel you were on or a Tumblr profile specifically that was your shit and you were like learning so much from? Is there anything?
Yeah, growing up in high school, it was Tumblr for sure. I can't pinpoint like an exact profile, but Tumblr was like crazy back in the day, you know?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, just seeing like certain people that we would, because, you know, when you're in Olathe, Kansas, bro, there's like zero inspiration. Same with Tulsa. Yeah. But like my whole life, I've kind of felt like there's been no real outlet at least physically, like with my physical location. So I've always kind of relied with digital outlets and with online publications. And Tumblr was the main thing where we were like, bro, we just be in class scrolling, like, did you see this? Like, yo, he looks so fresh in this. Like, seeing new brands and Comme des Garçons play, the Converse with the heart on the side.
Yes. Good thing you broke that down, because it's the first part of whatever you just said. I was like, what the fuck did you just...
Yeah. So like, I remember like back then people weren't hip to Comme des Garçons play at all. And my homie Dom had the actual like OG CDG Converse and was just getting like shit on for him, you know, like, bro, why do your Converse have that weird heart on them?
Right.
And, you know, fast forward to now and it's like everybody has those shoes or everybody's trying to rock those shoes and there's all kinds of iterations of them. But it was just like little things like that where we would try to separate ourselves, you know, because in Olathe, again, like, everyone kind of dressed the same. Everyone kind of looked the same. Everyone kind of was into similar things. So whatever we could do to differentiate ourselves and to, I mean, you know, like we always thought we were on some crazy level, but it was like, you know, we don't have any money. Like so whatever we could do to at least feel a part of this world, because it was hard, you know, that was kind of what we spent our time focused on. Yeah.
I love that. That's fire. So tell me a little bit more about, you know, the development of your love of basketball and how that turned into your time in Liberty. I'm going to just call it Liberty because I forgot the name of the school. William Jewell. There we go. All right, cool. So let's just transition. Senior year, are you like getting super into fashion to the point where you're going out and buying things and then like rocking that to your game and then putting your nice fit on after the game? Like, how much was that tied into basketball culture for you and like how you were behaving and interacting at, you know, house parties after Friday night football games and shit like that?
They were definitely intertwined. I remember like playing basketball and always wanting, like, you could kind of tell who the best hooper on the other team was based off of like, oh, he's got those kicks, you can't even buy those. Like those are the EYBL KDs, or oh, he's got the Nike Elite socks in that color that you can't get. So I kind of remembered like being able to pinpoint certain things based off of what people wore on the court. And I definitely cared. Like I cared about what my basketball shoes were, and I didn't want to be rocking some dusty basketball shoes. Like I wanted the new Hyper Dunks or whatever it was at the time.
Speaking of dusty basketball shoes, ladies and gentlemen, raising my hand, I was rocking the Walmart Proto J's for my 8th grade and freshman year. I lied to everyone and told them that they were a new style of Jordans. Some people believed me, which helped me out, then the real niggas called me out. But anyways, back to
that wasn't me. I definitely cared about it, but not to the point where it like ever overshadowed the sport. Like I was more so into the sport. Like I played basketball for the love of basketball.
You're a hooper.
Because,
that's just what it was.
Not because of anything style related, but I loved the somewhat like interconnection between them. And you know, like you'd be scrolling Tumblr and you'd see a picture of Nick Young wearing full Pyrex shit, and like that has nothing to do with basketball,
right?
But like he played in the NBA, and PJ Tucker's crazy shoe collection, and so you like I just remember there being like a lot of connections between the two.
And that has kind of exploded now. I don't know if you follow all the new fashion pages that are being created by photographers in the NBA.
Like Runway, or not Runway, I'm sorry. Runway.
Yeah, there's a Runway NBA, that's a page. Then there's like NBA Fashion, and then there's like NBA Fits.
Like getting one of your pieces on an NBA player rocking to the game is like a whole part of this world now.
100%. It's kind of funny to see because you see people like hustling to like, oh, they're going to be at this event, I'm going to go drop off my t-shirt with them, like trying to connect with their business managers to like get that shirt dropped off to them at their hotel before a game. Shout out my boy Yazin. I know he be on that, just dropping. He just be pulling up on everybody, dropping off his tees.
His bags are really fire.
His bags are super cold. But so when you get to William Jewell, like, have you started a brand yet? Have you thought about launching a t-shirt brand, or like has creating a brand of your own in the fashion world become a part of your thought process yet, or did it start in high school already? I know we kind of skipped over high school, but when
it started like junior, senior year in high school. Me and my homie started a t-shirt brand called Dachi, which was a DACE, which just was our initials. Like DACE.
Okay.
Yeah, but
we can't call it Dace.
Yeah, exactly. So we tried to find a way to like luxurize that.
Yeah.
And we were just doing like screen printed t-shirts and hoodies, which was cool because no one at our high school was really doing that. Nobody was actually like pulling up to school with t-shirts for sale, you know? So it started in high school. And yeah, I think back on that, like being a super necessary thing. Like some people still rock those tees and hoodies, which is cool, you know?
I'd be fired if you just saw one like as soon as you walked out of here right now.
There aren't many. I don't even have one anymore. So, but yeah, it started in high school. That specific brand didn't last very long. You know, it was just kind of like a
part of the journey,
just like a friend group kind of thing. But when I got to college, I definitely cognitively was like, I want to make clothes. I want to start a real brand. I want to figure this thing out for sure. So going into college, I had a scholarship to play basketball, but the whole time I was like fashion brand, fashion designer, figuring out. It wasn't even so much like fashion designer as much it was just like, I want to know how this is done because there's no industry here. There's no real like brands from here, especially back then. So I just had like zero information, zero mentors, zero connections to anything about how it actually happened. And I really, really wanted to know. And so that was kind of at the forefront of things. And like going into college, I was just sketching a bunch of shit. Like I would sketch something and post it on Instagram, you know? So I was always, people I think kind of knew me early on as kind of like the clothing guy a little bit. Also, when I got to William Jewell, I didn't know a single person. Oh, wow. So I could kind of like almost start over. I could like rebrand myself to some degree. So I was like, and I had a little bit of money from like grad parties. I worked that summer. So I went into college like buying shit. Like I was copping clothes more so than I can now even. So that was cool.
What do you remember during that time being some like signature pieces that you got that you really cared about?
I had a bunch of stuff, and it's funny because like I pretty much just ended up like flipping all of it on Grailed because for one reason or another, most of it would be like either it didn't fit right or I actually didn't like it, or but I got to experience so many different things, which I think was really important. I had some Rick Owens Ramones, I had some Yves Saint Laurent drip skate shoes. I had John Elliott shit. I had some Raph tees. I was going through it.
But how did it feel to have that and know that about 98% of the people you're going to walk by in that don't know what the fuck you're wearing?
It's like, I was used to it to some degree, but it also was kind of like, damn, like this is a missed opportunity a little bit. And that was also why like I gravitated towards social media so much, was because like, even though nobody at my fucking college knew about these Raph Oswegos I had on, I'd post them on Instagram, and like all kinds of people that I'd never met in person would be like, yo, those are fire. Or I would be connected to new people and new faces through that. Yeah. And so that definitely, that helped a little bit. But yeah, I mean, it was honestly probably even worse in college. Like nobody at William Jewell even gave a shit. So.
There's a small suburb / town called Liberty in Missouri. It's Liberty, Missouri, and this is where William Jewell is at. William Jewell, for those of you that don't, is it an NAIA school or is it NCAA?
They became NCAA Division II like 2 or 3 years before I got there.
Gotcha.
So,
okay,
like,
sick. Yeah, I knew they had
2011, 2012-ish, they went from NAIA to Division II.
Fair, yeah. So my brother, when he was in college, which was in like 02, 03, 04, in those areas, I remember them being NAIA because they used to play them in football. But small college town.
Very small. Super small.
Sort of diverse from an athletics perspective, but outside of that, not extremely diverse.
Not diverse at all. Beautiful campus, really good teachers, but we can move on.
Yeah,
I don't have a ton of
in other words, they ain't gonna know shit about what he's wearing. Is the whole point I was trying to make there.
Not at all.
So you transitioned out of college. What year did you graduate college? Or
18.
if you did, I don't want to make assumptions now. Sick. Okay, so you graduate 2018. What was the plan? Like, I guess the question I'm trying to lead to is, when was the inception of what I formerly know as Easton Clothing, which is now Bonicel? So that's what I'm leading to. But 2018, you graduate. What was the plan? Or what were you already working on, maybe, that you were planning to like turn up?
Yeah. So it took a little while to get to the Easton Koch clothing Bonicel thing, but I started another brand in college called After Hours, which was pretty cool.
Like that.
It was really fucking dope, actually, but I didn't know what I was doing at all.
What was the idea behind the brand?
idea behind After Hours was like really good streetwear, like simple streetwear, with like a little bit of an athleisure take on it. So like a little bit of that sportswear-y type of vibe. I had these sketches for pieces to get made that, like, looking back on it, weren't even really very good designs. But I actually had access to some money in college. William Jewell does this thing called a Journey Grant, where every student can apply, and then you get somewhere between like $2,000 and $4,000 to travel somewhere and like write a report on wherever you went. Well, if you're an entrepreneur, you can take that and put it into your entrepreneurial project. So I got, $3,500 ish to like put into this brand. And so I had a little bit of money. I had been getting connected with some people in the clothing world in Kansas City during that time, specifically to a brand called Baldwin Denim. I don't know, you might have heard. And so like a couple people through that brand ended up connecting, just giving me some additional resources, like, hey, if you want to find a manufacturer, this is kind of how you do it. And if you want to find good wool fabrics, you go here. If you want to find good denim fabrics. So I had like some resources and some money, but I still just had zero experience and like really no idea what I was doing. But I was like super ambitious. And at the time, nobody was doing that shit. So it just felt so like innocent, and it was dope. I look back on it with like a positive outlook. But yeah, I started this streetwear brand called After Hours. The negative thing about it was just the execution of the garments was not right at all. So like when I got this production order back from a factory in Lima, Peru, nothing fit right at all. So like I had good fabrics. The brand was cool. People loved my hoodies and tees, which was dope. But, I did like a wool jacket and a wool sport coat and whatnot. And like nothing fit, literally nothing fit. So that was kind of my...
So what'd you do with that stuff though?
I still sold it just for like super cheap. And basically, fair. So like the smalls and medium, basically what happened was everything fit like 2 sizes smaller than what it was tagged.
Damn.
So I had larges and XLs that I could still kind of get in people's hands, but the smalls and mediums are honestly, like, for the most part, still sitting in a box in my parents' basement.
Somewhere. There's somewhere there. Hey, well, ladies and gentlemen, it is Thanksgiving time and Christmas time. We got plenty of hoodie giveaways for the homeless. So, if you find those, I mean, look, we could run up on, we could... shout out Ashan. I know Ashan every year does hoodies for the homeless. So if you got some extra gear, just trying to plug it in, but moving on. Okay.
No, deadass, bro. So probably like, this might be almost a year ago at this point, but I was at a bar with my parents and my girlfriend, and this dude walked into the bar rocking one of the After Hours pieces, and I'd never met him. I didn't know his name, nothing.
That's sick.
And he said he thrifted it. And so that makes me think that someone got it, gave it away, and then he came in and copped it, which was so cool.
Yeah, that's honestly beautiful.
I keep a pretty good mental track of everyone that buys stuff from me, just because like I see it, I know when it happens. So like for me to just have no idea who you are if you're rocking one of my, it was like so fuck. And for it to be a piece that I made, this was like 2017-ish. So and like the style, that's what I'm trying to say with the After Hours thing, is like the style of it was dope. Like people could still probably
the concept,
gravitate towards the concept.
The brand was
and like
there.
Bro, the lookbook was so good. I used photographers from Baldwin. I used like the best models I'd ever used. So like if I dropped the lookbook that we shot in 2017, I think people would be like, oh, that's fire today, you know? But it's just the execution was off. But that was kind of my, that was definitely my like biggest learning curve to getting more into the actual execution of making clothes. And I had the thought, like, if I'm going to spend money on getting clothes made, I'm going to at least know how they're made. And so that's where, like, the next little bit of money I had, rather than giving it to someone to make clothes for me, I was like, I'm going to buy a sewing machine. I'm going to figure this thing out myself. That way, at least if they suck, like, I'm learning why they suck, you know?
Right. Absolutely. And so you do that, you take that capital, you invest back in yourself into you learning how to create the material, the clothing, the feel that you want. And how has that been from a, like, I guess, business perspective, where it's like a longer, it's a long process regardless, you know what I'm saying? But when you're having to do the handiwork, I always ask people who create dope materials like you and Yaz, and I'm like, yo, so like, what's the business plan? Like, cause you can't like, you know, you can't make 1,000 pieces with your bare hands, you know what I'm saying? So I guess during that learning process, what new revelations have you had about the industry or about the clothing that you want to make or about the business direction you want to go? What new revelations happened during that time period?
Definitely a couple things. Some people don't care about the garment being perfect, you know, like that's what especially nowadays, like that's what I care about, is like every single stitch being mathematically correct and everything looking and presenting super clean, and there not being one mistake and things of that nature. I learned, you know, not necessarily everybody cares about that. Some people don't care if the hem is raw, or if the left sleeve fits shorter than the right, or if the pocket's fucked, you know. They just want to be a part of some type of community or a part of something new and fresh and dope. And so I was always still able to like profit, yes, but also like get people kind of excited about what I was doing. I was also like at the time probably one of the few people actually like cutting and sewing my own pieces. And so like even though the shit was not right, people still liked it, and people still, you know, would wear it. And I think that was something I learned really early on, was like, there's another reason why people buy things other than it just being like the best executed piece. Because I went from like dope designs, poor execution, to like mostly caring about the execution. And that wasn't necessarily why people liked my stuff or bought my stuff. Some people want it just because it's different, or just because it's unique, or just because there's only two of them. Or, you know, I learned that there's like a million reasons why somebody buys something. You don't always have to like know exactly what it is, but you got to position yourself to like hit on as many of those different areas as possible.
You can, right? Yeah. And I think like the word that keeps popping back up in my head is really just brand and storytelling. And I think that's something you do really good at. Like,
yeah. And sorry to cut you off, but like I've always been giving myself on social media. I've always been posting. I've always been like, hey, these are the updates. So like, even though, you know, now I've like scrubbed a lot of that kind of stuff and started new, the people who have been following me this whole time have like grown with that, and they've definitely seen the evolution, and they've definitely seen like how much better shit has gotten. And, you know, what's really, it's 5 years, but it's like still a pretty short amount of time. And yeah, it's like that community aspect, which is so hard to grow, but that's like probably the most important part. Yeah.
It's powerful for sure in terms of like being a mover and shaker in the space. That's what's going to take you where you want to go.
Yeah.
And then obviously you still got to execute.
Right.
But like you said, there's a lot of different variations of what that means to different people.
For sure.
Like the execution to me, like I just mentioned Ashan, I just mentioned Yaz, I just mentioned, we're talking to you right now, like all three of you guys, Kai, Dom, like with your respective crafts, arts, creations, what I really respect and what I really enjoy is more the the storytelling and like the presentation of whatever that comes out. And because of that, now I want to buy the product. Now I want to come see the product, whatever it might be, whether it's the music from Ashan, but even some of his clothing he's dropped in the past, or whether it's Yaz's bags, or whether it's your denim pieces. Like I don't know what the fuck denim is until like 2 weeks ago when you pulled up at the store. And like, you know, like then I'm like, okay, this is really interesting. But prior to that, I'm like, I just think your storytelling's fire. Like the way the photography, like how you let us know that something's out, like who you choose to be models. I'm like, okay, I like this.
I've always like, it's funny, like the more I've gotten into like like every single stitch on this garment, the less I've kind of like thought about those things. It's still super important, obviously. Right. But like when I was first growing up and I wasn't actually making the clothes, that was everything, was like, who's the model, who's the photographer, how is it presented, how is it, you know, told in a unique way. And like, you know, I pretty much for the most part am like doing this all myself. So like the more I focus on sewing every single piece, it's almost like the less my brain works in that area.
It's also second nature from all those years of doing only that part, though, I think you've developed that skill. Doesn't mean it doesn't need to be harped on even more, but like you've developed that skill. So naturally, when you write a caption, naturally, when you post a photo, you know, you just know how I should post this.
For sure.
And you know what I know what I should say. You're not thinking about it like that, but it just naturally comes because the skill set's there.
And I know what it should look like. I know what it should feel like just from doing it for so long.
Oh, yeah. And so I want to dive into, which we've touched on here and there. So if people have been listening closely, they probably could have put it together now. But the inception of what is now Bonicel. Let's talk about that. Like when did you release that name as the new brand name? We know why. We know where the name comes from. But like, when did that happen? And then the most recent, I could be behind, but the most recent photo shoot and like collection I saw, I think is tied to the photo shoot you did with what's his name? Rare Juice.
Yeah.
So I guess what's the newest pieces that have come out? What is the focus of the brand right now? And when did this happen? Like this year, last month?
So I started Bonicel about a year, probably like almost 18 months ago. Prior to that, I was doing Easton Koch clothing kind of after the after hours thing fell off. And what Easton Koch clothing was just kind of like me making whatever I wanted / me making whatever other people wanted me to make for them.
Yeah.
And I got sick of that. I got tired of like, yeah, I can do this, but if you want it this way, sure. You know, I got tired of doing that. So I wanted to like, this is what I do. This is what I'm making. This is the name. I wanted it to be like an official brand. And, you know, prior to that, while I was doing Easton Koch clothing, I had the idea for Bonicel denim for probably like a year before I actually started it. But there were like so many little things. Like by this point, you know, I've been doing clothing brand related stuff for like 3, 4, 5 years. So it's like, okay, whenever I do start this next brand, this is the one. And I know kind of what I need to get in order before I start it. So there was kind of like that probably year-long period of like, okay, I know I want custom hardware. Like I know I want my logo to be on my buttons, but how do I get that done? So there was that period of just like finding out how to get it done, meeting people in the city that had done similar things, talking to them, getting their input. So finally, whenever I felt ready to kind of like start sampling pieces for Bonicel was probably about 18 months ago, or like summer 2022-ish.
Gotcha.
And the idea was just to make like one piece at a time, post it, talk about it, let people purchase it if they wanted to do so, and just like go on to the next one, keep going. Right now, that's kind of similarly the idea, but I do want to have like a core collection of pieces. Like I feel like I've kind of honed in my craft. I've honed in like my idea of what are the 4 or 5 like original Bonicel pieces, like the 4 or 5 that are like universal. Like anyone can wear this at any time. These are the 2 or 3 fabrics out of each of these pieces I want to do, and just having the branding like 100% dialed in. So rather than like making you know, random stuff one at a time, there's definitely like a clear and concise vision for it right now. Denim is the forefront of that. Like the original Bonicel selvage jean is kind of like the ethos of my brand, I would say. That's like the poster garment. But I am still making a couple other pieces. You mentioned the Mildred shirt on there. That's like one of the most elaborate pieces I've done. The mechanic shirt, which is a piece I'm wearing right now. And so just kind of like surrounding the denim with a couple complementary things that fit the narrative as well. Cause it's, you know, like denim is a pretty universal thing. Like everybody has a pair of jeans, but everybody has a different pair of jeans, you know, like
everybody might have a pair of jeans, but not everybody may understand denim. So
there's so many like versions. You know, there's like the $20 jeans from H&M. There's the
explain what you explained to us, and let's stick to jeans because it's just the simplest for people to understand. So let's go from like $20 from Walmart or Target all the way up to like some of the $270 ones that you showed us at Gavel. So let's kind of run through like why it would be priced higher, the quality, how it's made, to the best of your abilities. I know we kind of went through so much conversation when I was at the store, but to the best of your abilities, just for people to understand like how much beauty, storytelling, like background history work goes into.
So like a cheap ass pair of jeans is going to be using the cheapest possible denim fabric you can find. So like 9 times out of 10, that'll be made in China or Mexico, maybe. I'm not entirely sure. It'll probably have some stretch involved in it, like 98% cotton, 2% elastic, for example. And these jeans will be used on a couple machines used to make as many units as humanly possible. So like H&M, for example, is probably making tens of thousands of units of each of these pants. And when you're using cheap hardware, and when you only got one tag, and when the fabric costs you $3 per pant, you know, you can get jeans manufactured for $11 or $9 or whatever the cost is. Whenever you get into some of the stuff that we carry at Gavel, you're going to be using really high quality denim. So like selvage denim, for example, which is denim woven on a shuttle loom. So like the side finishing on each side of the denim has this like colored ticker. It's kind of a signal for like quality denim. So like American made selvage denim or Japanese made selvage denim. And the machines used to make these jeans are going to be the best on the market, like old Singer machines, new Juki machines, and multiple different machines to make these jeans. So like a typical pair of jeans will go through like 7, 8, maybe even 9 different sewing machines.
Wow. And
each of these machines are very expensive. They're not cheap machines. And they all do one thing. And they all do one thing really, really well.
Interesting.
So, and you know, like, and rather than there being tens of thousands of units cut, they might only be manufacturing 50 or 100 or 200 units. And when less fabric, when the width of the fabric is narrower, you're going to get less yield. You're going to get less amounts of jeans cut per the same amount of fabric. Well, you're using more fabric to make less amounts of jeans. You're using higher quality. Maybe you're using custom hardware like I am. Maybe you're using re zippers, which are like top of the market. Maybe you're using like custom pocket bags and you're printing on them. And maybe you're using multiple tags and all kinds of things to like increase the price of it. So whereas H&M is spending, you know, $9 per pair, 316 is spending $65, $70 per pair. And so that's kind of, you know, if you're spending $70 to get a pair of jeans manufactured, you can't sell them for 80.
Right.
You know, there's no business in that.
Right.
So that's kind of where you get to these like $200, $300 pairs of jeans and, you know, even up in some cases from there. But it really just comes down to like the quality of the fabric, where it's made, the number of units. And then there's a bunch of other little hardware, zipper, tags, printing. Some people print on their jeans, you know, things like that.
I love it. And speaking of that, I want to dive into some of the pieces you brought or have on, one of the two. So
I finished this piece today.
Beautiful. So let's start from there. Garment. Just do your best version of breaking down that piece to your best abilities. What is it? Why does it look so thick? Can I touch it really quick? Yes. Why does it feel like almost like a very strong pair of jeans, but like, yeah, just break down the vibes, man. Break down the vibes. You know, I'm not good with this fashion shit, so I got good questions.
This is the Bonicel mechanic shirt. I've been working on the mechanic shirt since earlier this summer. There was a short sleeve version I did with more pockets on it. That's like a true mechanic shirt. This one, I'll probably end up changing the name at some point, but this is my mechanic shirt pattern. So that's what I'm calling it for now. But this is a 12-ounce heavily washed denim textile. So whenever you get denim in, it's typically going to be raw, meaning it's never been washed, treated, nothing like that. And denim at heavier weights, 12, 14, 15 ounces, it can be pretty stiff and it can be pretty rigid and almost uncomfortable.
Like the pants we touched over there.
Right. Yeah. Whenever you wash it a shit ton or, do different methods of washing it, it gets really soft and it gets really comfortable. And like this has almost got like a blanket texture type of feel to it. And when you get some of that softness mixed in with like a heavier weight, it just feels really substantial. It feels good on your body. It doesn't feel like you're wearing anything flimsy or cheap. Like it feels like you have a shirt fit for mechanical work on,
like a suit
type of vibe.
Shit, like a labor suit. That's what I call it.
Yeah. And then the other thing I try to do with my pieces is just like keep them pretty roomy, like especially my shirting block. Well, with the pants too. But it's like I don't want anything fitting super tight. You see a lot of skinny jeans was a whole wave, but even in like the raw denim movement, you see a lot of really like slim, tapered, hugging your thighs type of jeans. And I do understand like that is a part of the raw denim movement.
He can understand it and he can, whatever he about to say, but listen, man, I know I shouldn't have comments or opinions on other men, so I'm gonna wrap it by saying just, hey, stop wearing them tight ass motherfucking jeans. Yeah, but I should shut up because I ripped these today, even though they're not jeans, but little do y'all know, I got
some Bonicel pants, man.
I do need some Bonicel pants. That wouldn't happen if I had Bonicel pants. Facts. Go ahead.
The skinny, like when you see like distressed skinny jeans, that shit needs to end. But like the raw denim movement, the reason people wear jeans that are so tight is because that raw fabric, like the more stress you put on it, the crazier it's gonna fade, break in, form to your body. So there is kind of like a tactical reason why I still can't rock that shit. I don't want anything hugging my thighs. I got athlete's thighs. So like I need a looser, like more flowy pant. And so that's why the pants that I make are straight leg. So like looser all the way throughout, just something roomier and more comfortable. Same with the tops. Like this is a pretty flowy, boxy type of garment that I think is pretty versatile, like you can button it up and dress it up, or you can throw like a hoodie on underneath it and keep it pretty casual. So I try to keep the fits pretty loose.
And so that's the mechanic shirt. Let's talk about the Mildred.
The Mildred shirt. Yeah. It's the Mildred shirt, named after my great grandma, Mildred Bonicel.
Shout out to grandma.
It's actually a very similar piece to this, but I've just kind of like taken it up a notch, like elevated a little bit. So I've given it a full lining. So this piece is not lined. This is just, one piece of denim on both sides. The Mildred shirt has a hemp fishnet lining running throughout the entire thing, the sleeves, the body, everything. So it just feels fucking amazing, bro.
Yeah,
like when you have this
when you got that hemp feels so good on my skin. It feels
great. Yeah. It feels great. And so like the hemp, it almost feels like a heavy kind of mesh, which it's like breathable. You can feel the texture of it against your skin. That's something as a designer that I've really like honed in. I've always been good with fabrics, but like textures are super important to me. So like the texture of the fishnet lining is just incredible. A couple other features to it. It's just a full hemp garment. Like everything's hemp. There's drawstrings running throughout both the sleeve cuffs and the bottom hem, 100% hemp. The mesh lining or the fishnet lining, like we talked about, is hemp. The outer of the Mildred shirt is hemp. So like I keep the mechanic shirt pretty standard with denim. The Mildred shirt is hemp, everything hemp. So that's kind of like my luxury elevated version of what I'm currently wearing. Just taking it up a notch, making it even heavier, and just utilizing a few other details and a few other trims that like really make it stand out. Yeah.
And I love it. I think one thing I would highly recommend for everyone listening to this podcast is, number one, of course, to go purchase
Please.
some Bonicel clothing.
Keeping
go to
me
the
alive.
website. You just had an announcement earlier today in regards to a newsletter that I want you to shout out so that people can be aware of that and know how to subscribe to that and what your plans are with that newsletter. And then where they can find your clothing. But not more importantly, what I would recommend for anybody who's listening to this podcast and really enjoyed the conversation around like the details, like when Easton started getting into the details of the material, me and my friend Milad found that to be extremely interesting and like fascinating. And we're like, damn, we want to start brands now type of energy, right? So if you guys feel that same way, follow Easton first and foremost and pay attention when he says he's at Gavel from 11 to 7 and pull up on him because I assume you're willing to talk with anybody and everybody about this type of stuff. And
bro, this is what I do. Like, if anybody wants to start a brand, I'm just like the best person to talk to because I've started so many brands, and two, I've never had like a connection to Lil Yachty where I can just like give him a hoodie and next thing you know, I'm blown up. Like I've been selling clothes to like my friends and like people that I've met on the streets and people that I've met just
years
like hustling and networking. So I feel like I've definitely I've got some secrets for you for sure.
He does, and I didn't even understand half of them when you were sharing them, but they were fire and made me want to ask more questions.
That's kind of where the newsletter comes into play too, is like even if you don't want to meet with me in person, subscribe to my newsletter. It's called the Divine Layers newsletter. You can subscribe at divinelayers.substack.com. Divine Layers is kind of like my pseudo creative voice name that I've been rocking with for a little while. Bonicel is my brand. Divine Layers is like the store that carries the brand eventually. Type of vibe. So the Divine Layers newsletter is like me giving as much of my journey, story, thoughts, failures, accomplishments into like a weekly publication as I can. So I'll be dropping a weekly newsletter. I got one dropping tomorrow morning actually about like the creation of this piece.
I'm excited.
Just talking about all the details of it. And not just about the pieces in general and not necessarily just about like selling clothes, but also about like the trials and tribulations of being an independent designer. You know, like I love this shit. I'm going to do this forever, but it's not necessarily easy and it's not necessarily always fun. Like sometimes it's like, all right, I'm making this shit, but who's going to buy it? You know, it's like I put 6-7 hours into this piece, but that doesn't pay me anything. You know, it's like even after I finish making this beautiful garment, there's still a whole other world of the business side of things that has to happen in order for me to actually like be able to keep doing this. So that's kind of like where the newsletter comes into play. And I think I have a bunch of cool stories about just like the past 5 years of me doing this shit and a lot of cool insight. And I've got a ton of industry knowledge, bro. Like I know exactly how clothes are made. I know exactly where most of these brands get their stuff made. I know how it's made. I know where these fabrics come from. Like I can look at a garment and half the time tell you exactly what it costs for them to make. Which is
what I'm going to ask him here in 10 seconds about this t-shirt. But no, I love that. So one more time, website where they can purchase your clothing, then how they can subscribe to the newsletter, anywhere else they want you to follow, you want them to follow you, how they can support you. Plug them one more time just in case they didn't hear you.
Bonicel Sewing. That is the name of my brand. I'm on Instagram at Bonicel Sewing. Bonicel is Bonicel. And my website is bonicelsewing.co. So that's where you can find all the Bonicel stuff. Check me out there. And then for the newsletter, it's divinelayers.substack.com. And you can find my personal Instagram page by searching Divine Layers. I don't have a website for that, but yeah, Divine Layers or Bonicel.
I highly recommend that you guys subscribe to this newsletter. Like the earlier you can get into a newsletter and kind of understand.
Because it's not always going to be free. Right now it's free. But
first and foremost, exactly. First and foremost, that part. But also just like sometimes do you ever subscribe to a newsletter like, and they've been doing it for 2 years, now you feel like you missed out on a lot and then you try to go back and reread it. And people who really want to invest in the brand will go do that at the end of the day.
I don't know if you're familiar with Substack at all, but it's like a really cool writer's publication.
Super easy to navigate as well.
But the way that Substack works is your posts get archived over the time, and like new subscribers will only have access, or free subscribers will only have access to like 2 weeks of your archived posts. And by paying, the monthly subscription, you can get access to all of them. But that's kind of one of the cool things about Substack is like, you kind of got to get in now if you want to see the full timeline of what I'm doing on there. So
exactly. So go subscribe, ladies and gentlemen. All that information will be in the description box on YouTube when this drops next Wednesday.
Nice.
It is Friday today. My guy, first and foremost, I appreciate you dropping in today. I'm going to come see you from 11 to 7. Sometime
pull up to Gavel.
Continue this conversation.
Yeah, one more plug.
Yes.
Gavel is by hands down the dopest menswear / denim shop in Kansas City. Shout out to Cam. I work there Mondays from 11 to 7, and I also have some Bonicel pieces available in that shop too.
Yes.
So if you want to come out and check out some Bonicel stuff in person, or just chop it up with me and learn as much as you can about how these dope garments made their way to Kansas City, come through Gavel. It's on 18th and Grand, right across the street from Green Lady Lounge. It's an amazing shop. You should check it out for sure.
And Voices of Value podcast stands by that 100%. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, yet another episode, 172, with our guy,
Congrats, man. That's crazy.
Easton. We'll be back again because this conversation has so many more layers we need to uncover and touch on. I want to do like a panel with you. I
feel like we could keep going.
Yeah, we could go out for hours. But subscribe, share with a friend, leave a comment. That is the only way we can grow. This is your boy, CIZZY, signing out. Salud.